So, yeah, steel talk. You know, finally, I've finally done it. I have the three most wear-resistant steels in the world right here. And I've got to say, this is kind of this is a real achievement for me, I feel. This is something I've wanted for the past 5 years, and I wasn't good enough at making knives to do it now, but I finally have it. You know, I finally have CPM 15B, Maximat, and Rex 121. And you know, they're all actually different thicknesses. You know, it's like 150 thou. This guy is closer to about an 1/8 inch. This is one actually I surface ground at the show. And here's a piece, 15V. And yeah, I've got to say, you know, my conceptions of 15V, I thought it was kind of in the same class as these two steels right here. But these two steels are in a league of their own. The 15V is actually more of a pussycat compared to these guys right here. The 15V, in my experience, it just can't get as hard. It's kind of stuck at like 64, 65 max on the hardness, you know, and sharpens much easier. This is much easier to work with. This stuff right here is a fucking nightmare to work with. Hands down, just a lot harder to grind. I usually don't grind before heat treat. The thing is, though, that these steels are so fucking extreme that probably the only way I can grind these is if I grind them before heat treat. So I'm going to have to almost basically put the finished grinding on these before I send them out. These two steels are very intense. You know, the heat treatment for this is interesting because it asks for a really short soak on there. This one asks for a lot longer of a soak when you're austenizing. The problem I'm having with this Maximat, or excuse me, the Rex 121, the surface finish isn't as good, you know, from the factory. I put the surface finish on this with that Burr King surface grinder. Yeah. And then this Crucible did a really good surface finish on this one. Yeah, I think it's come to the point now too where I'm going to start paying for the steel with the surface finish on there. It's just much flatter, less decarb on there to worry about. And I don't have a surface grinder, so it's a pain in the ass to get a finish like this. This is a good finish, actually. This is about the stock thickness I have on here. So let me get a little swigger. Yeah, this is a seasonal beer. This hands down is this is probably my favorite stuff by far. So whenever this stuff comes out, yeah, it's just intense. I mean, hence, this is probably on paper, this is going to be the most wear-resistant steel on the planet because you have 15% vanadium alloy added to this, and you have a lot of carbon on there. It's just that wear resistance isn't edge holding. It's a component of edge holding. You know, the hardness of the steel is also important. People get that confused, and it's fucking annoying. The wear resistance contributes to edge holding, but it's really expressed with a toothy edge. Yeah. So 15V, I like it because it gets a really aggressive edge, but the excuse me, the stability falls off a cliff with this steel right here. Realistically, with these three steels, I won't sell these to anybody. I have to interview people before I sell these to people. The reason is I'm not going to bitch out on you guys. I'm going to make sure that these are as thin as possible, but the margin for error on these steels is going to be huge. What that means is it's not the steel that's super chippy, it's how you're using it. You know, to be honest, that's been my experience with it. They don't like explode or chip when you're cutting like onions or if you're cutting stuff like cardboard or any of that stuff. It's only when you make contact with hard stuff that you start running into issues. And a lot of people, unfortunately, when they use knives, they have like fucking edge amnesia where they don't remember what their edge made contact with.
And so they think that their edge chipped when they were cutting cardboard or something like that, but it's all bullshit. You know, you can't chip these steels cutting fucking cardboard. It's just that if that metal makes contact with hard stuff, because I'm going to, even bone, yeah, you're not supposed to cut into stuff and twist out. And these knives will keep you fucking honest in that I'm going to grind these so thin, there's going to be no margin for error. And that's because the thinner you go, the better cutting you're going to get. So these are more expert knives, not to mention that people that can't sharpen, you know, unless you have special stones, there's no way you're going to be able to sharpen these right here. I mean, I'm going to push the hardness on these and the geometry. So I'm not going to fuck around. You know, these are going to be, you know, 69, 71 HRC, and this guy's going to be close to 65 HRC. So yeah, these aren't for everybody. They never were designed to be. They're for people like me, people that sharpen, people that are interested in that stuff. Yeah. Oh, these ones right here, you guys will see when we get done. We'll have to see how much it cost me to make. I've never made knives in this stuff before. We'll see what happens, you know. It's so far, I will say that this project is very expensive. There's a reason why you don't see these made in knives very often, because one, just the raw material's expensive. Two, you know, just doing stupid shit like drilling holes, that costs a lot too. Everything about these, you know, knives, getting these made into knives is incredibly expensive. So for people to say that, you know, well, you know, these are probably a little too brittle and too expensive for me, that's good, because you know, I don't want to sell these to people that don't sharpen and people don't appreciate what's going on with these right here. So these are something special. These are for people that want that extreme performance, like a Lamborghini, stuff like that. That's what those are for. So they're not for everybody, you know. And if I sell one to somebody, I'm going to ask them a lot of questions before I sell something like this to somebody. Make sure that, you know, they're able to handle something like that, because it truly is an expert's knife. You know, there's no joke about that. So. Let's see what else we got here. Now let's finish these guys off. We say we use the old Maximat here. Yeah, so Rex 121. This is the top daddy steel right here. Nothing will outcut this steel right here, because so far it's about the only steel I know that'll push that 70 HRC with as much carbide volume as it has on there. At the same time, this is the only steel that can come close to matching it, but it's just not quite as wear resistant. And what it does match Rex 121 with is basically the high operating hardness. You know, so both of these steels, they can push 70 HRC. The Maximat, I find, will be a little bit more stable, a little bit more edge stable than on the Rex 121. The Rex 121 is basically an extreme of an extreme. You know, I think for most people, these knives are probably too extreme for most people. So they're not going to be for everybody. But if you're that person that demands, you know, the most intense steel, then yeah, these are definitely kind of a cool thing to have. I mean, probably cut almost indefinitely with stropping and good care. Yeah. Edge stability is, in one way, it's described as fine edge holding, but is at the same time, it gets confused, because it's basically the knife's ability to hold a really, really fine edge without chipping or rolling. Yeah, so without chipping or rolling. So here's the thing that gets confused by people that talk about edge stability. They talk about edge stability, but they're talking about like soft, like alloy-free almost steel, soft, shitty steel that essentially it doesn't hold an edge very well. It doesn't chip, and so they're like, oh, that's edge stable. But at the same time, if you cut something with a really, really thin edge, it just fucking rolls over to the side. Now, that's not very stable if you consider there's steels out there that don't do chipping or rolling, given the same task. So edge stability, in a perfect world, the most edge stable steel would be something like an AEBL at 6770 HRC. The problem is that doesn't exist. You know, whether it's the limits to material, for something to not have that much alloy to get up that high hardness, or if it's just not made because it's just costs money. No one's looking to make that. So yeah. So the thing is, carbides are a necessary evil when it comes to stability. There's no way to achieve really high working hardnesses without carbides. Every steel has carbides too. In fact, for it to be steel, the carbon inside of the iron is technically a carbide. It makes cementite iron carbide when it's just idle or hanging out in the steel. And then it's when you put that into solution with the iron and you quench it, that's when you basically get the really hard structures that people like. It's impossible. I've only experienced a ABL at 62 HRC. It doesn't have the right combination of alloy. There's some people that claim they can get AEBL very, very hard, but I've not been able to experience that. There's so much, the Rockwell hardness testing itself, you can get wildly different results, based on how it's being tested, based on who's testing it, based on if the machine has been calibrated, if the 120-degree diamond penetrator has good integrity. There's all kinds of things to it. Yeah. I don't care about M4 anymore. Just don't care. The chemistry itself is just, it's really prone to retaining the austenite. It's not very tough at high hardness. I feel like 4V does everything M4 can do, but better. So I'm making the knives. So since I put all my blood, sweat, and tears into these things, I get to choose what steels I use. And I'm going to choose 4V, or I'm going to choose Venatus 4 Extra. No M4. Yeah. I'd rather do crew wear, or I'd rather do 4V. M4 is old news, man. All of that molybdenum, the molybdenum and tungsten doesn't really do as much as you think. You think that you get 4% molybdenum carbide and 4% tungsten carbide. It doesn't work like that. First off, there is no molybdenum carbide. There is no tungsten carbide. There's an M6C carbide that can be a blend of either tungsten or molybdenum. And it doesn't really create that much M6C type carbide. Really, that stuff that's inside there is really for kind of a red hardness, its ability to be a high-speed steel where you can grind it, really, really high. It'll make a very secondary hardening when you temper at really high tempering ranges and stuff. All of you guys like M4 because you guys can buy knives in M4, but I'm making knives, so I get the choice. You guys don't. So you guys have only experienced M4. I like M4, but I'm making the knives, so I get to choose what I get to do with the steel. And knowing what I know about the steel, man, fuck M4. Yeah, 4V is better. I already told you. Theoretically, it would be something like ABL at 67 HRC. It doesn't exist. The closest thing we can get right now is Nitrobe 77 at 63. Possibly there could be a way to get it to 64. I'm kind of working on that right now. There is Nitro V, which is basically ABL with an addition of nitrogen and vanadium, which can increase the working hardness to 64. I'm working on trying to get that steel up to 65 HRC. We'll see what happens. This latest heat treat I'm sending out, I have some ideas about how to get it further. I mean, all this stuff costs money, though. You know what I mean? And I try to be as open as I can with all this different stuff. But at the same fucking time, you put in all this work, all this effort, and testing all these different protocols and HRCs and stuff like that. And then you put it out there, and then somebody takes your shit and says, hey, like, check out what I invented. And it's like, well, no, I put that information out there for you, and you're just taking it, and it costs me a lot of money, and you're using that information. So, yeah, it's one of those things that's, it's gotten to the point, too, where I've just decided, I'm going to put up the Patreon to see if people support the information I put out to the public. And if they don't, I mean, that's fine, because I put all the information into the fucking knives, I don't have to say anything. The knife does all the talking, so that's kind of what it's like to be on the maker side of the world. Is a maker, he just lets his work do the talking. You don't have to say anything. People will see, people that know, people that appreciate using and stuff like that will see your work and they would like it. Yeah. I don't think there's a There's just no good way to get a 4V into an axe, especially not at any kind of reasonable price that a regular guy would want to pay for. The 4V axe would cost something like $1,500 to $2,000, and then at the end of the day, maybe not so good. There's maybe a way to laminate it or forge weld it into a softer steel or whatnot, but just too fucking expensive. I looked at it and it just wasn't reasonable, you know? So, yeah, probably not the best either. You know, an axe doesn't rely on carbides or any of that stuff. It relies on just shape. And so having all those carbides inside there from the 4V that gives it high strength and some wear resistance, that's detrimental to an axe. An axe isn't made to slice shit. It's just made to hold its shape and bludgeon, chisel. So you want something a lot lower alloy. That's why steels for axes make great axes. Steels for knives make good knives. I've thought about making an axe, but what fucking hubris it would be to try to think that I'm making the best knives in the world and that I can move on to making the best axe in the world. Because to be honest, you can for the rest of your life just stick with one knife design and you'll never perfect it. You know, it's a lifelong journey to try to perfect a blade, you know, from everything from the geometry, the heat treatment, the fit and finish, the handle materials and all that stuff. So I can't move on to make axes until I've perfected stuff like this, you know, and I'm barely able to move into doing stuff with kitchen knives. This has been something I've been working on because I'm very passionate about kitchen knives, because these are some of the last tools that are used professionally in the world. You know, hunting knives, I like hunting knives too because they have a purpose. If you notice, I don't really make any EDC type knives because they don't appreciate the knowledge I can offer to put into stuff like the steel and the geometry. These have purpose. Hunting knife has a purpose, and this has a purpose. A survival knife and an EDC type knife doesn't really have a purpose. It's just kind of whatever somebody's preference is. And so I find these people, on a majority, these people know how to sharpen their shit. Hunting knife people also, they know what they're looking for. They're looking for certain stuff, yeah. So I'm barely tapping into I'd like to get into the kitchen knife world, but I gotta stick with this stuff right here. What's up, Nick? What's going on, bro? Super thin, flexible. Moss, let me just finish your crew red knife, and then we can look into getting you a fillet knife or something, man. I've been thinking too about getting a Vanex super clean fillet knife. I noticed that at Alpha Knife Supply they have the stock thickness for the fillet knife. Here's the thing about flexibility in knives too, guys. It just has to do with the thinness. It has nothing to do with the heat treat. Just if you get the blade thin, it flexes. That's it. It can be hard as fuck. It doesn't matter. It could be any steel, any heat treat. If it's thin, it flexes. That's all it means. No, Moss is a good customer. No, I'm not going to the Sportsman show. I've been getting my fucking ass kicked on just eating dust all fucking day, grinding out these stupid fucking blanks. You know, a lot of people, they'll get this stuff water jet, and I think that that's probably the best way to go. The problem is, for me, I'm using so many different steels that it's not cost effective for me to water jet. You know, I'm getting small batch stuff. You know, I'm wanting to try different designs for different steels and things like that. So for me, I'm kind of stuck using angle grinders and drill bits and fucking wearing out belts and stuff like that to cut profiles, surfacing, all that crap. And it's a real pain in the ass. Yeah, the sweat jet. Yeah, I act like I like it, but I fucking hate it. Yeah. Yeah, it's the thinness that makes it, because it's that elasticity comes from just the fact that these metal atoms are really packed close together. It has nothing to do. I used to think too that it had to do with the heat treat and stuff like that it would flex, but you just get it fucking thin. Yeah. Do I EDC my knives? I don't know. I think that's probably the worst part about being a knife maker is you don't really get a chance to enjoy your own knives. As soon as you get one made, you have to sell it. I think that the enjoyment comes when you make knives is that you get to make another one. So you get to explore, you get to keep pushing the boundaries of stuff. And so that's where your addiction goes, is it goes into pushing the steel, getting cooler shit. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Zach. Appreciate it, man. I don't know. I've thought about that too, as far as like I almost envy certain manufacturers that they don't have to say what the steel is. It's good quality because it still cuts a while and people enjoy it. And I think that that is kind of smart in a way, because I think that there is a little too much focus on exactly what the fucking steel is. You know what I mean? For instance, if I made a knife in M4, it's not going to perform the same way that the Spyderco does in M4. You know, any mass production company is limited with what they can do when it comes for heat treatment as well as geometry. It's almost to the point where it's like a fucking insult if somebody compares my M4 to this M4, just because I spend so much more money and time to make the steel perform better in the knife that it's almost a different fucking steel. And so when some manufacturers don't have a steel name, but they have a really good reputation, and it's just you get carbon steel, you get stainless steel. If it's a respectable company that's making a high quality product, I respect that. I like that, because at the end of the day, when you buy that knife, you're buying them, you're buying their knife, and you're just grabbing it and you're fucking using it. You know, I do get kind of annoyed how focused some people are on the steel names. I'm part of the problem too, you know, because I'm obsessed with the different steel, but you know, it can be vastly different depending on how it's heat treated and you know, the geometries that it can be at, as well as how you're sharpening it too. You know. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't obsess too much about different steel for axes. Yeah. Oh no shit. Well, Moss, let me finish up that crew web for you, dog, and let me get you what size blade for the fillet knife. I'll get you a piece of Vanix. That shit would be cool. What size blade? Okay. So that means I'd probably need. That'll probably be a 23-inch piece of Vanix, 80 thou thick, and I'll grind it real thin. You can take the decarb off; it'll be thinner. And then, what are you thinking for blade height? Probably something like a inch and a quarter. I think that'd be inch and a quarter is about this width. Probably inch and a quarter is actually about that width, and then just taper it out. I think that'd be nice. Yeah, Moss. Let's get you a Vanix fillet knife. I mean, it'll be fucking expensive, but I don't think anything will cut longer than a Vanix fillet knife. That's probably the best fillet knife you can have on the planet right now. You know, 60 HRC. I don't know. You know, here's the thing about, you want performance, you want the best performance possible. It can't be stainless. It cannot be. It has to be. If you notice these three steels, I entered this video saying that these were the best. These are the best fucking steels in the world, and they are. Technically, these, nothing will outcut these. If you put these into a type of machine that will just cut forever, you know, without any kind of user error or any of that crap, and you drop the geometry on these, nothing will outcut this stuff. It's impossible. And all of it is all not stainless. It has just enough chromium in there to help with the hardenability. That's it. That's all that chromium in these steels does. So you want the best edges, you want the best cutting performance, then you've got to reduce the stainless factor. It's all trade-offs. You know, everything's a trade-off. The Vanix steel is newer stuff, and it's incredibly expensive, but so far it's the only steel that has the best balance of all steels, because essentially what it is you get the edge holding just a little bit under LMAX at 60 HRC, is Vanix at 60 HRC. It's basically impossible to rust. It's probably one of the toughest, you know, PM stainless steels maybe just behind the Nitrobe 77, but that's not too common. So for the most part, it's going to be the most tough, stainless powdered steel you can buy. And it'll be easy to sharpen, and it's incredibly stable at the edge, but it has a lot more wear resistance with all those vanadium nitrides inside the steel. So it's incredible. It's incredible stuff. Yeah. I don't know, man. You should never get a set of kitchen knives. I think that everybody fucks up because they're always looking for a set of kitchen knives. To be honest, to get the best kitchen knife, you start with getting the best chef knife you can afford. After that, you get a good paring knife. After that, maybe a good bread knife, depends on what you want. But realistically, you probably only need three kitchen knives, man. I don't know, 4. Just take care of those ones. Buy the best quality ones you can get and just take care of them, man. Like I've been rocking this guy right here in my kitchen. I've been very selfish. I haven't been making any of these to sell just because I've been enjoying it. And, kind of the fit and finish didn't fucking come out the way I wanted. I spent so much time sanding it. You can see how I got these weird scratches and shit in there. This is that CPM 4V blade, that 64 HRC with the hard chrome finish on there. That's what that was. I never told you guys about what the fuck that was on this blade that kept it from rusting when I dipped it in the acid. And it's basically hard chrome. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know about cleavers, man. I don't like the DMT products. Yeah, I think they're inferior. Cobalt is like an austenite stabilizer. So what it does is the cobalt, when you temper the blade, it prevents the martensite, which is the hard stuff inside the blade, to keep it prevents the martensite from going from tetragonal to a more cubic shape. And that tetragonal shape inside of the martensite, inside the grain, is what makes the steel so fucking hard. So basically it allows you to temper, but at the same time, it prevents your martensite from getting kind of shrinking back down as much. So it retards the reduction in the martensite losing its shape when you temper. The advantage to that is it just seems to be, in my experience, depending on how the blade is constructed, geometry and heat treated, and just the steel itself, cobalt can seem to help get a little bit of a stickier edge. Yeah, but there's no smoking gun on what I just said right there. There's so many different variables and factors in there that you can't even say that. Like I shouldn't even have said that, but that's just been my kind of bullshit anecdotal experience with cobalt in the steel. Yeah, I'll have a booth at the Oregon show. Yeah, that's what I'm getting ready for right now. That's why I've been grinding like a fucking bitch, just making a huge mess, metal dust everywhere. I'm getting ready for the Eugene Knife Show. Come down, say hi. I'll have a sharpening station set up. You want to fucking learn how to sharpen? I'll teach you. Even if you've never sharpened before in your entire life, sharpening is the most important skill for all this knife stuff. And people think that you buy these kinds of skills to get away from sharpening, and that could not be further from the truth. These skills are for people that sharpen. These skills are for people that want to basically sharpen when they want to, not because they have to. So that's what these are for. I fucking sharpen every day. I love to sharpen. And the thing about it is you put so much effort into putting a really high quality edge into something. And if you're putting it on some soft, shitty steel, it's just fucking annoying that you spend all your time creating this gorgeous edge. And then it doesn't even hold that 30 minutes that you put in to make it gorgeous. So fuck that shit. These are for sharpeners, man. These are for people that want something that actually holds their investment of time that they put into an excellent cutting edge. These are for people that sharpen too, because people that sharpen understand that, if I make contact with something hard, that fucks up my edge, regardless of if it's a super tough steel or not. It's no longer going to be hair whittling sharp if you're fucking up the edge. So these steels just express more damage at especially a really, really thin geometry. I gotta admit, being a knife maker, it makes you nervous. It makes you fucking nervous to make the knives as thin as you would like, because realistically, when people take a thin knife and then do stupid shit with it, it kind of tarnishes your name. People are like, dude, what the fuck, man? I got this knife to chip. All I was doing was cutting an onion. Yeah, you were cutting an onion down into a fucking ceramic, Like, give me a goddamn break, It's just out of control, man. It just drives me insane. Nice, dude. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I got a chance to give Zach a little sharpening demonstration. I showed him a lot of the basics and stuff, and Zach bought one of my knives, so I truly appreciate that. And just want to let you guys know, if you purchase one of my knives, you're fucking in the crew, man. You're in the golden crew. There's only a few people that are getting these knives, because these aren't production knives. These aren't mass-produced knives. These are made, each one, hand by hand, blood, sweat, and fucking tears, man. So there's times where I wish I could just sell my knives short. There's times I wish I can skip corners and cut corners on something, but I fucking can't. These are my passion. These are the one thing. This is most important thing in my life, is making these high quality knives. And even if they're not for the person that wants to buy it, I will tell them, hey, maybe you should check out this other knife maker, because he makes knives that are probably more for you. If there's somebody that's just looking for a really clumsy knife that can, not get damaged and stuff like that, I'll fucking send them somewhere else. I can only make so many of these in my life. Only so many of these. Mass producing something like this waters down the quality. I fucking refuse to do it. I fucking refuse to water down my product. This is bigger than me, and it's bigger than all of us. This is about trying to make the finest cutting instrument on the planet. It's about taking everything I've learned over the past 10 years and putting it into this one little simple tool, man's first tool. This is one of the first tools man had, was a cutting implement. It wasn't even steel. Sure, it was like rock, obsidian, stuff like that, but it was knife first, then fire. And so to put all of the knowledge I can here in the 21st century into man's first tool, it's an honor, and I respect it. And I'm going to take it to that next level, and for the people that will appreciate it, nobody needs a knife in Maximat. Nobody needs a knife in Rex 121. So it's not a matter of need. When you come to me, it's not a need anymore. When you come to me, it's a want. It's something where you realize that knives are what make your life happy. And you come to me when you're tired of fucking around, when you're tired of dealing with stuff, or like, man, I'm tired of this knife. It's too fucking thick. It's too soft. It doesn't hold the edge I like. That's where it's at. When you come to me, you're already experienced. You're already somewhat of an expert. You've already dabbled in a little bit of sharpening. You've already been kind of checking some stuff out. When I say carbide, you know what a carbide basically is. That's what you come to me for. I think there's plenty of other makers that cater to other people that are focused more on regular knives. And I'm not only going to use these kinds of steel. I mean, these are so fucking horrible to work with that I'm still going to do knives in 52-100 and all that shit. So I'm not an elitist. I don't feel like these are the only steels that make a good knife. At the end of the day, it's geometry. It was always geometry. And the geometry only works when basically you're using the knife properly and you can take care of it and sharpening it. Oz 8? No Oz 8, man. No Oz 8. People get so stuck on certain steels. So I don't have any access to Oz 8 for one. I think Alpha Knife Supply just started carrying 440B, which is kind of similar to Oz 8. But the pricing, man, it's expensive, man. The 440B is just expensive enough that if I spend maybe $5, $10 more, I'm already into a better steel. It gets harder and is more stable. So fuck that shit. Prost. All right. We'll finish this off with the dead guy. Let's use our good old friend, Mr. 15V here. These are fucking delicious. I love these. But these are the fucking champions. I don't know if you guys, I don't care where you guys live in the country. This is a Brown Bear's favorite beer. Yeah, so if you guys ever want to fucking get an awesome beer, this is my favorite beer, hands down. This is seasonal beer right here. Yeah, so, just there's nothing like this brew. It's just fucking magic. Yeah, XHP. I know what you meant. You said HHP. XHP. I like XHP, man. I do. Just depends on the geometry and heat treat, though. I think there's a lot of raw potential out of XHP. I think that there could be really good heat treatments to something like XHP, CTS XHP. The reason why I say that is because XHP has an advantage in that we get high hardness and high carbide volume without having lots of vanadium, which means that anybody with ceramic stones can sharpen it if they got the skill. The raw potential XHP has to offer is because it has 1.5% carbon and lots of chromium. Essentially, it's like if you take ZDP 189 and if you cut it in half completely in chemistry, that's basically XHP. It's like a baby ZDP 189. So when I look at that steel, I see a lot of raw potential. I see the ability to get 64, 65 HRC without being incredibly horrible to sharpen because chromium carbides have been shrunk down with the powdering process. So when I think about XHP, I get excited. XHP has some problems, though. I feel like with that much chromium in the steel, it does reduce some of your stability. It could be a little bit chippy at the edge, possibly. Maybe there's some heat treats that can be explored for that. Another problem is that much carbon and that much chromium, there's not really going to be a lot of free chromium in solution for a lot of stain resistance. So I feel like when people buy something like XHP, they get the notion that, okay, like I'm getting something very stainless, but it's probably not very stainless. And in my experience with some production knives in XHP, they've been more prone to rust. So, yeah, XHP, I see it as a good steel. My problem is that there's better steels. I said it. Yeah, there's better steels. I think what kind of sorts you out with this shit is when you have to fucking make it. You know, when it's up to you to sit there and fucking make each knife one by hand. Oh, you're going to figure out what steels you're going to want to work with and what steels you're like, nah, fuck that. That's just not worth it given the price and what I get from it. Because every one of these blades I probably sharpen each one of these blades about, 10 times before they ever get sold. So while that hurts me in production, that hurts me with trying to produce as many knives as possible. It's not about producing as many knives as fucking possible. It's about producing the best knife I can. It's not even about producing the perfect knife. It's impossible for me to make a perfect knife. I've tried, you gotta probably take a lifetime to make the most perfect knife. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to make the best fucking knife I can, and that's all I'm going to try. Just my personal best. And if I feel in my heart, that I've done my best, I can lay my head down on my bed and I can sleep easy, yeah. I don't know, like these are gonna be really expensive, I mean, fuck, upwards of like 500. We'll see. I mean, so far it's not looking good for the price of 15V Rex 121 and Max and that. They're just fucking expensive. I really fucking lucked out when it came into getting this Maximet steel. I got it basically because it was the steel itself had a bad taper to it, and so I had to surface grind it, and I was able. The only reason why this is in the shape of a blade right now is because I got access at Blade Show West at that video you guys saw to a surface grinding machine. Yeah, so otherwise I wouldn't have been able to use the steel that I bought. So, and it's hard to get. These Carpenter steels are a fucking pain in the ass to get for some reason. I don't know. Carpenter just is more concerned with selling to the auto industry and the aerospace industry. They could give a fuck less about the 1% of people in making knives. Crucible, on the other hand, they're very knife friendly. These people, they get their steel distributed through Niagara Specialty Metals, and they're very, very friendly to knife makers, but they're a much smaller operation. And people basically argue back and forth that they have basically the lower quality of steels, but I haven't seen it. You know, I think that has to do a lot with the heat treat, geometry, and edge finish. I think Crucible is probably my favorite just because they're the friendliest to knife makers and they have a lot of alloys that I look for. They're easy to work with. They love working with people like me. And so I like Crucible. I like Crucible probably the best. Bowler, Udelholm, I like them. I like their metals and stuff, but they're, I don't know, man. They're really hard to get a hold of. I think it's one of those things where everybody in Europe wants Crucible steel. Everybody here in America wants Bowler Udelholm steel. So you try to keep the V edge, man. You know, naturally what happens is you're always going to get some form of convexity, but if you guys already see the level of my sharpening is at, or I'm cutting the paper towel and I'm doing all that shit. Now, for those of you that don't sharpen, you're like, whatever, it's just sharp or whatever. But those that do sharpen, they understand, like, man, that's pretty fucking, that's hard to do to cut the paper towel like that. You can only get something like that with a really crisp apex. If your apex isn't very crisp, then you're not going to be able to do that. If your edge is super fucking convex, it's not going to do that. So technically, a more convex edge is closer to being a dull edge. Yeah. So fuck that shit. That's why convex edges are so durable, because they're closer to being dull. Yeah, I don't care who I piss off. Fuck convex edges. I said it. All right. You guys want to know? I'll finish this beer and then we'll finish this video, but I know why you guys watch this video. You want to know probably what one of the best production steels you can buy in a production knife, don't you? I'll show it. You want to know? Let's see if people want to know. I'll hide this knife. It's a production knife. All right, fuckers. K390, bitches. K390 is fucking awesome, So I have K390 to make knives out of just because once I tried this knife in the Spyderco, I was like, holy fuck, that was amazing. So K390 is a tier below these steels right here. So essentially here's how you guys need to think about steels. Group all these at the top. These are the most extreme. These aren't for everybody. These are for people that want the fucking highest top speed, but you want the worst gas mileage. You want the worst suspension. You want the worst cargo space, but you want the highest top speed. K390 basically has a little bit of acceleration, more acceleration, less overall top speed, but it's got more acceleration, better handling, a little bit more of a comfortable ride. That's K390, man. So K390, CPM 10V, Venatus 8, super clean, all those metals. Now the thing is, UKPK is actually a little bit softer than the Spyderco Police 4 in K390. There's kind of CQY that goes on with the heat treat, but the reason why this steel is so fucking cool is it's essentially, there's a guy by the name of Doc Dan on the Spyderco forums, and he called K390 the M4 killer. And a lot of people are like, well, how could it be an M4 killer? It's a completely different steel. But technically, you get a lot of the properties that you get from the M4, but it fucking smokes the M4. The M4 has got nothing on this guy right here, because a lot of the perceived edge toughness you get from M4, K390 has. So, and at the same time, you get a higher working hardness. It takes just a stickier edge and it holds it longer. The M4 experience in Spyderco and a lot of other production knives, it takes a sticky edge, but it seems like it's more prone to either chipping or rolling in use. So you're always having to touch it up. It touches up easy. I like that. But once you go K390, you never go fucking back. This stuff is just fucking nasty. I love this stuff because K390 is one of those unique steels where it'll do toothy edge and it'll do polished edge. It doesn't give a fuck. So the K390 is nice. And then the burr comes off a lot cleaner on K390 than CPM M4. So yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah. So K390, we'll have to wait until Spyderco hopefully makes some smaller knives in this, because this knife is fucking ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie. I don't really carry this knife a lot just because I feel fucking retarded every time I pull it out sometimes. You know? How much better is it than S90V? It's about 20 times better than S90V. Yeah. S90V is Michael Christie's favorite steel, and Mike Christie gets some really sick ass fucking hair whittles off S90V, but there's no comparison in my mind when it comes to S or K390 because it's a harder steel. It doesn't have any chromium carbide to gump it up or any of that bullshit. So you get all the benefits of it. It's like an M4 plus. It's not really, because technically it's more of a 10V class of steel. 10V is also known as A11, especially the kind of the name of it, kind of like A2, 1095. 10V is essentially A11. So Carpenter makes an A11 steel. You know, K390 technically is an A11 class steel, even though 10V in Bowler is technically a K294. So K390 is a little bit different. And the reason why K390 is more badass than 10V is, one, it's fucking harder to get. There's no equivalent to it in the Crucible, which I like working with Crucible, so I'm going to be making a lot of knives in CPM 10V as well, not just 15V. But the K390 has a little bit less of the chromium, okay? And the chromium kind of interferes with making all the really hard MC-type vanadium carbide that you like, you know, because basically what happens is some of your vanadium is robbed from the carbon by mixing with the chromium. So you get kind of a chromium enhanced vanadium carbide, which isn't as hard as the MC type carbon vanadium carbide. So this has less chromium. This has a little bit more tungsten. Still has all the nasty volumes of the fucking carbon and vanadium. So here's the problem with K390 though. A lot of you guys, now that I just said all this stuff and I said all the fucking groovy shit about it, one, you got to know how to sharpen your shit. Otherwise, this still might be lost from you on you. The factory edge from Spyderco, it could have a lot to be desired. I feel like this knife is made in Japan, and the Japanese, I don't think, are using any kind of diamond stone to sharpen these guys. Or, of course, they're not using a diamond stone. What I mean is diamond abrasive. They're not using any kind of diamond abrasive to sharpen this edge. Yeah. So when you get this knife out of the box, the factory edge fucking sucks. And that, trust me, hey, that hurts my heart to say that, because Spyderco makes a lot of really good factory edges. This factory edge from Spyderco was great. It's not on there anymore. But what I'm basically trying to tell you is, don't buy this fucking knife and then, you know, shit on me about how it's not sharp out of the box. Mine wasn't sharp out of the box at all. You know, I feel like the Japanese weren't. They're so used to working with much lower alloy steels that, yeah, they just didn't put a sexy ass edge on there. And realistically, you guys got to understand where I'm coming from. When you have somebody that basically, you know, makes his own stones, you damn straight I'm going to have access to any tool I need to put the sexiest edge possible on a knife like this. So, and I do, you know, this edge is old. It's not as sharp as it could be right now. You know, a sharp edge is a fleeting thing. That's what people don't realize. You don't hold a hair whittling edge for fucking ever. You have to constantly strop it or do this and that to it to maintain it. But otherwise, yeah, this K390, the reason why I like it is that bird just breaks off so clean. When you work with it and you bring up a really nice polished edge, it's both really crisp, but really fucking aggressive too. And I think that's just a really unique quality with the A11 class steels, which is essentially Carpenter's A11, Zap, which is a German steel company. They also make an A11 class steel like 10V. You know, Crucible, of course, 10V. Then you have Bowler's K294, and then you have this K390. Yeah, so I think the K390 was like 64 HRC, you know, 65. The UKPK was softer, and I think that's something that happens when you have a steel like this softer, is it wants to hold on to a burr more, but then once you start crossing that kind of threshold between, you know, the 62s up to the 64s and 65s, you basically get that ability for the burr to break off. That's one thing too that people don't realize. sometimes harder steels are actually just fucking easier to sharpen because people don't realize that the soft steel, while it's easy to grind on, you can't really get rid of that burr if the steel is really soft and the microstructure is shit. So that's why this knife is so badass. That's why I still carry it, even though it's this fucking giant, clumsy contraption. You know, I'm a bigger person, so I can get away with it. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think to best express this steel, you would need at the very least something like a Naniwa 800 grit Japanese diamond waterstone, and that'll put a really fucking sexy edge on this, followed by a 1 micron diamond strop. That's probably one of my favorite edges. But I also noticed that this steel, because the matrix has a high hardness, not just the carbides, you can go up to a 3K to a 1 micron strop, and it's just fucking nasty sharp. It's one of those steels where, like, once you feel the edge, you're just like, oh fuck, that's sharp. You know, if you never experienced M4 before, that's kind of your first experience with M4, isn't it? When you guys first got that M4 and you were like, oh fuck, this is a game changer. That's my favorite steel. Because on paper, this looks kind of like a S30V, but it's not, is it? When you guys sharpen, you guys realize. I don't know. I don't like the DMT stuff, man. But you got to realize there's some bias from me, right? Because I get stones made. I get special stones made and stuff. So for me, I get the choice. You know, I was using DMT stuff. I didn't like my experience with them. You know, I can sharpen pretty good. And I figured, you know what? I think that there's a better way to go about this sharpening stone stuff. And I decided to make my own stones. So for me, I don't like the fucking DMT stones, because if I did, I probably would have never made stones in the first place. So yeah, there's no K390 mules available. They're all out of stock right now, and the mule program is going away too. If you guys don't know what the mule program is, it's essentially a way to get a really cheap fixed blade from Spyderco with no scales. You have to buy it directly from Spyderco, but mules are dead. They're all gone. There's only a few ones left there. If you go to Spyderco.com, you have to buy them from Spyderco.com. They're not at any dealers. You go on their web store, you pick them, you can see the selection they have, you can buy them. But I thought about modifying some mules, but fuck that. No, don't grab up mules. Grab up my knives when they're done. Fuck the mules. I'll get you a knife with a sheath and a handle. Fuck that shit. Woo. Have I addressed it? It's a good question. The Rex 45. So the Rex 45 is unique because it is a production knife steel that the production company making it, Spyderco, had the balls to make it hard as fuck. Now, a lot of these steels, even M4 is capable of a hardness like that. 4V is capable of a high hardness like that too, you know, as is, you know, other stuff. Crewware is also capable of that stuff. The problem is, though, that those steels aren't being put or utilized at that hardness, but Rex 45 is. So for somebody like me, like, probably give a fuck less about making knives out of Rex 45 just because I have access to all these different steels. I can choose whatever fucking hardness I want. I ain't scared of anything. But at the same time, I have to charge more for it because I'm not able to make them mass production. So here you have something that's being mass produced, but it's super fucking hard, like 66, 67 HRC on some of them, 65 HRC. It's incredible. It's not going to smoke stuff like Maximat, because Maximat is hard and has more carbide volume. But here's what it does do. The Rex 45 is a lot more stable. It's a lot tougher at the edge. Some people would like that. The K390 is not as hard on the matrix as probably the Rex 45. But because it's an A11 class steel with a fuck ton of carbon and vanadium and stuff like that in there, this steel, I find, takes a more aggressive edge at high sharpness and high polish than the Rex 45. The Rex 45, what I found when I was sharpening and using my Para 3 that I still have, is it took a very, very keen edge, but the edge wasn't super aggressive like the K390. So the reason why I pulled out the K390 and I didn't pull out a Rex 45 is just because, in my experience with how I sharpen, I found the K390 to take a sexier edge. The Rex 45, for some people, they'll like it better because it'll be a lot probably tougher than the K390 edge, you know. But it didn't take as an aggressive of an edge as this stuff did right here. So yeah, K390 is probably one of my more favorites. But if I'm really honest, probably Maximet is my favorite because in my mind, my mind is still blown that we can have something like Maximet available in a production knife with that high of a carbide volume at that high of a hardness. I mean, a company like Spyderco, they have to factor in, like not everybody is going to be using our knives properly. Not everybody is going to be able to sharpen them. But Spyderco is essentially like, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to make this production. And when I first heard of Maximet, I remember I was thinking to myself, like, oh, who the fuck cares? Like, I looked at the chemistry and I was like, okay, another steel at 60 HRC, with high carbide volume. I don't know what that's going to fucking do for us. We already have, Spyderco already came out with S110V and stuff. Like, who cares about Maximet? I was kind of initially thinking. But once I realized that chemistry was able to hit, 67, 71 HRC, that's when I was like, holy fuck, that's crazy. And the fact that Spyderco had the balls to put that out there to the general public, realizing that most people don't have the tools, most people don't even know how to fucking use their knives properly to avoid like shipping shit. And they put that out there to the general public. And it was met with a lot of, it was really polarizing, right? When Maximet came out to people, some people were like, holy fuck, that takes a sexy edge that holds a hair. All they have to do is strop it or it sharpens so easy because they're all using the proper stones and shit. And then you run into people that don't know what the fuck is going on. And they start using something like Maximet because they think they're going to also get that edge holding, but they're doing fucking stupid shit with their knife. They're doing like just breaking it and chipping it and trying to sharpen it on shit that it can't be sharpened on, because when you have that much carbide volume and the matrix is that hard, it doesn't fucking do it, man. So I really commend Spyderco for putting out something like this right here, this Maximet steel. I would have never known what the fuck this was until Spyderco came out with it. So cheers to Spyderco, because that was really fucking cool. Yeah, this is the one steel that you for sure cannot sharpen on a brick. It will fuck this steel up. Like what'll happen is it'll start chipping as you're sharpening it, because all it's doing is rubbing on there and stressing the matrix and then causing it to basically stress and chip. So this is the one steel that cannot. It just fucking can't. I'm gonna hold the camera up like this. You're free. You're free. You're free. Here, I'll hold it up. Can I get one more? There's another one of those in there. And I'm gonna do. Nah. Oh, let me get the. I'll get it. Shit. Oh. Oh, fuck. Oh. All right. All right. You fucking idiots. Use some fucking K390 here. This is a beer from my really good sharpening friend John. He got this for me actually. Picked up a shift from him. The Atoma 1200. I bought it at Atoma 1200. I never told you guys I bought one. Oh, by the way, about this beer. All right, shut the fuck up about steel. Let's talk about this beer. So this beer is made in Oregon, as all good beers are. And this beer is the Pelican Brewing Cream Ale. And the reason why this beer is so good is because one sip of this and you're at the beach. I swear to God, you're basically at the Pacific Northwest coast on a gray, cloudy day. I'm at the beach now, you know? I'm totally at the beach now. It's so fucking awesome. Yeah, so this beer, this is one of the best, and it's from a good sharpening friend. And so that makes it even better. Oh, that's some good shit, man. All right, Prost! Ah. All right, cheers. Where were we? What were we talking about? I don't even remember. Oh, the Atoma 1200. I bought one of those Atoma 1200s. The Atoma 1200 is a really interesting stone because most of the diamond plates are really fucking aggressive. The Atoma 1200 is the exception. It's both not aggressive, meaning it doesn't cut very fast, and it leaves you a horrible finish. So what does the Atoma 1200 do? Any of the coated diamond stuff, what that does for you is it essentially, that abrasive grain is poking up above the stone. So what that means is as your bevel is coming in to be cut by that abrasive grain, it's fully able to penetrate into your bevel and leave you a really, really deep scratch. A really, really deep scratch. Now that has a positive attribute, that has a negative attribute. So when it comes to rope cut testing, the reason why you don't see that on this channel is because I don't really use edges that are expressed the best with rope cut testing. I don't. What is best for rope cut testing is the lowest grit you can get rid of a burr. If you can sharpen a knife all the way down to 140 grit and remove the burr properly, you will have the best rope cutting edge possible. Because when you're rope cutting, you should be drawing the edge. There should be no up and down push cutting. This is polish, this is toothy. And so by using a diamond coated abrasive, that coating on there's no bonding to basically interfere with having full grain penetration into your bevel as you sharpen. So you get a coarse, nasty fucking edge, okay? But it'll be really aggressive. It's almost like putting a serration on your knife. So when you cut rope, serration cuts rope better. So essentially, the reason why you would use something like that 1200 Atoma is if you wanted something like a little higher grit, but still to be really aggressive. Now, my problem with that is that in my experience, how I feel about it is that if you have a smoother bevel, that's less propagation for microchipping to happen. So if you notice on my knives that I do that hand sanding on there. It's not just for looks, but in my experience, I feel what that does is when you have a really thin geometry, under 10 thousandths behind here, okay, a thin geometry, but then you have even a thin edge or any of that stuff, it'll prevent any kind of cracking from propagating up the blade. By having these production knives with these deep scratches here, I feel like any energy that can transmit through here, these are stress risers to move up and crack and break. In fact, even this big spider hole, most of these Spyderco knives that break when you pry, it breaks right here because there's a stress riser. It snaps right here. Usually you'll find a crack or whatnot. Any flaw in the blade will happen right there. So hand sanding is not just for beauty, but I feel like it's also for reducing any stress risers that can move up, which I feel are really important when you have a steel that has 15-20% carbide volume after heat treat. and then you have something below 10 thousandths on the edge. That's really fucking important. That's really important. Yeah. So that's been my experience. If you guys ask me, okay, why don't you test that shit? Why don't you tell us? Fuck you, man. I mean, that costs money, you know? That's another thing I want to talk about testing. Everybody wants you to test everything. At the same time, that costs fucking money. It costs money, dude, you know? It costs my money. It costs my time. My time is money. So I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So I will fully understand if you basically want to call me full of shit or say, nah, that doesn't do anything or this and that. It's like, that's fine, you know, because I can't afford to prove you wrong. I can't. It costs me too much money to argue with some random person on the internet, you know. Trust me, I want to see it just as much as you do. Yeah, testing costs money. It does. Yeah. Tell you what, you want to see testing or you want to see the fucking knife made? Because that's the choice that it comes down to. You want to see me get bogged up in testing some stupid shit that we already know, or do you want to see me just make the fucking knife and sell it to you? Let's just make the knives and sell them to you guys, you know? Oh my god. Because really, at the end of the fucking day, just use your fucking knife better. Learn how to sharpen your goddamn knife. And that's it. Cheers. Ah. 4V. Oh. Oh. I hard chromed it. What's up, dude? Covered the blade in hard chrome. I used a flash chrome process. I'm going to quote the late Colonel Sanders, and I'm going to say I'm a little too drunk to taste his chicken. Now the blade is this is my personal kitchen knife. Yeah, fuck you guys. I didn't want to sell it. It was too special to me to sell. But what I did was I hand sanded the blade, and I had it coated in hard chrome. And the reason why I did that is because Gerber had actually done some hard chroming to the knife. Nah, fuck you. I won't sell it because in my mind, the finish isn't as good as it could be, and the bevel is too thick. Because I've actually dropped this to take it easy, Moss. Yeah, buddy. So this is only valuable to me. You know, if I put a knife out there and it's got my logo, you know, that's your reputation, man. You live or die by that. You know, so if it's not your personal best, if it's not the best you can do, it's just not worth selling. You know, so this is something I keep, and it's something I just want to. I just want to keep testing and see what it's about. So with hard chroming, there's some complications. So hard chroming is not new. Hard chroming is actually really old. Hard chroming goes back to the Vietnam War. And so back when SOG knives actually made really fucking cool knives, when they were actually made for the original SOG group, for the Studies and Observation group, for MACV, Military Assistance Command Vietnam is what that stood for. You had these guys that were essentially like American U.S. Army Special Forces or Green Berets, and they would basically go into areas that were denied to the United States government, such as Cambodia and Laos, where the North Vietnamese were making these trails to really send all of these materials and stuff down to keep fighting the war and keep sending supplies and stuff to the Viet Cong. The Special Forces guys would drop in over there. They were like totally like plausible deniability. So if any of them, if the whole recon team or whatnot was fucked up, they would send in a B-52 in there to just arc light the entire area. Arc light was just basically just bombing the whole fucking area. And there was a bounty on these guys' head where like the North Vietnamese were like, dude, if they could capture these guys alive, they would get such a huge bonus. And so Mac v. SOG and the SOG knives were originally these really badass like Bowie knives that were used in the jungle. And what they would do is they were carbon steel back then, and they would coat them in hard chrome. That's where I'm getting at with all this Vietnam bullshit. You know, I've never served. I'm not in the military. I'm not any of that shit. But I was fascinated by the history of it. And so that's where the origination of this hard chroming process comes from, is that Gerber and SOG back in the 1960s and 1970s, back when they were more of a more high-end custom knife, they would take carbon type steels, carbon tool steels such as Vasco ware, and we'll get to that in a bit, and coat them in hard chrome. So I thought that was fucking beautiful. I always thought that was something really cool and needed to be explored more. And unfortunately, these two companies, Gerber and SOG, they moved into making more mass production bullshit. You know, so I think that Gerber and SOG make way more money than I can ever hope to make making knives out of this stupid fucking shit, you know? Because they can make knives more available to your regular person that just needs a knife, you know, for a decent amount of money. They don't really care about it, but, you know, it's just like, I need a decent knife. But the hard chroming I thought was really fucking cool, because essentially you take something like a tool steel, and which will rust as you look at it if you leave water on it, and you coat it in hard chrome, and now you basically have a high-tech steel with a stainless jacket on it, and it'll only rust at the edge. The problem with hard chroming is that there was some discussion that essentially that you would increase hydrogen embrittlement. That if you didn't hard chrome it in a way to then directly temper it after it's been applied with a flash chrome, that you would cause in between the steel and the hard chrome jacket, some hydrogen would build up and embrittle the steel. So it was not ideal. I think next, the other problem you'd run into is that essentially you would basically have galvanic corrosion, where you have different kinds of metal. You have a metal on top, chromium is a metal, and you have a metal underneath. And that can increase the basically potential for rust to form inside between the layers of chromium and steel. And so you would have it rust from the inside out. From what I've seen, though, the reason why I didn't believe any of that bullshit is because there's Gerber knives made in Vasco ware that are older than me. Now, I'm 32 years old now. I'm going to be 32 this February. These knives that I've sharpened, because I have worked for a sharpening organization, and I've sharpened knives, to make a little side cash. I've seen Gerber knives that have this hard chrome on tool steels like Vasco ware, older than me, and they're not rusted from the inside out. They're fucking fine. I've seen some in really bad shape. And so that's basically how I stumbled upon this hard chrome stuff, is as I'm being a knife sharpener. And I ran into this Gerber knife. Gerber, as we know, is fucking crap. Sorry, Gerber, but you guys suck. And you guys used to be good, but you suck now. And just because you try to make knives for everybody, So I get it. Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is that I was sharpening this knife that had this kind of, I noticed the coating was really shiny, but the edge was all rusted. And I was like, that's interesting. What the fuck is going on there with that? When I tried to sharpen this Gerber knife, it was fucking horrible. It was probably one of the worst sharpening knives I've ever experienced. Yeah. And so the problem with that knife was they didn't have a good heat treat of the Vasco ware back then. So Vasco ware is essentially crew ware. Crew ware is Vasco ware. They're the same thing. There was this old steel company called Teledyne, and they used to make this non-powdered version of crew ware. Crew ware essentially is basically Crucible had bought the formula from Teledyne, which was Vascoware. Vasco, kind of being similar to the company that made it. And so when they bought that formula, Crucible, CRU, ware. So instead of Vascoware, it became Crewware. And so I felt inspired to take the technology back from fucking Gerber, because Gerber is an Oregon company, and being an Oregon knife maker, I wanted to bring back the pride that we have here in Oregon for making the highest quality blades in the world. And yeah, my thinking was to take steels like 4V, M2, Crewware, and coat them in hard chrome. And then you have all the best advantages of a stainless steel, but then the edge holding properties and stability of a carbon steel. And so I've played around with this hard chrome a little bit. Maybe I'll play with it around some more. You guys tell me what you think about it. But as far as I'm concerned, this was the best fucking kitchen knife I've ever had, So just wasn't going to sell it to you guys. This thing is so important for my life and making me happy that I just can't sell it. But I have some more of these cut out. I have another one of these in 4V. I don't think I'm going to hard chrome it just because the hard chrome finish, I don't think it looked as nice. You guys see how it looks kind of blotchy and shit. So it kind of broke my heart with the hard chroming. But you know what? If you guys care more about performance than you care about more about the looks, then the hard chrome, I think, is really the way to go. So hard chrome, what do I think about it? I like it. I just I don't know, man. I spend so much time hand sanding and making it look beautiful that when I get it hard chromed and it doesn't look as beautiful as it did before, it just breaks my heart a little bit. And so I just don't feel like I want to hard chrome and sell and stuff. Yeah. So 4V, it's 4V, 64 HRC, hard chrome. What do you guys think? Should we hard chrome more? Should we hard chrome more of these steels? They won't look as nice, but it'll not rust on the outside. Yeah, that's been something I've been thinking about. I haven't shared it, actually. The reason why I was kind of so hush-hush about it, I didn't want anybody fucking stealing it from me, There's things that I will share with you guys, and then there's things I won't share with you guys, just because it costed me so much fucking money. Yeah. Isn't it crazy how Gerber had changed? Gerber was used to, making the finest quality knives in the world to making knives that are essentially in every Walmart on the fucking planet. I should hard chrome LC200 in. All right, man. Sure, dude. I should fucking I should put carbide on the edge of Rex 121, I guess, huh? Yeah. Then Bear Grylls got... No, man. I think they got their hooks in Bear Grylls. I think it's the other way around, dude. Yep. So yeah, I got another knife in 10V, a Giotto. To be honest, I haven't. It's this shape and everything. It's in CP and 10V, and it's at 67 HRC, and I haven't even ground it yet. And the reason why is because I don't even know if I can afford the belts right now to grind it. So I've been focused on getting some other knives done, and I'm going to sell to you guys just so I can afford getting that 10V knife done. Yeah. Because it's tradition. Why hard chrome? Because it's just traditional to this area. It's the heritage of Oregon and where we've come from knives. I feel like it's really important to take that back, to take that tradition back. Do I think the hard chrome is better than some more fancy coatings out there? Probably not, man. To be honest, I think the DLC type coatings are really fancy and I'd really love to use them. The problem with DLC is that they don't like people like me, man. DLC people or PVD companies that offer that service to basically put a physical vapor disposition, or where they deposit stuff with vapor inside of a special vacuum chamber with like plasma and stuff like that. They only want people that want to do like really, really high volume stuff. I'm making these knives one by fucking hand, dude. Okay? One by hand. These people don't want to work with me. They don't. I've looked into it. They don't. Now, the person that does the hard chrome, this is the same guy that did it for Gerber. I tracked him down. I found him. Okay? And I was bullshitting with him, and I'm like, hey, man, do you want to do that stuff you did back in the day for Gerber with me? And he said, yeah. So it's tradition. Yeah, tradition for this area, for where we live. You know, I'm bringing it back. So, fuck PVD. Hard chrome. Yeah, I found the original dude. Yeah, and that's why I didn't want to talk about the hard chrome shit, because I found him. Yeah, he's a really cool guy, and he likes to work with me. He likes what I do. He appreciates what I do. So I talked to some other guys, and what the fuck are you? I have no idea what that means, man. Why is it fucking orange? What steel would I choose for a fishing knife? Vanix. The Vanix Super Clean is by far the finest fishing knife steel on the fucking planet. The problem is it's also the most expensive fishing knife steel on the fucking planet. So the reason why you're not going to see a production knife in Vanix Super Clean right now is because the shit costs as much. It costs more than Maximet from Carpenter. So LC200N is more cost effective. And I like the LC200N. I'm making knives out of the LC200N. So what do I think about LC200N? It's probably a better question. LC200N is everything you want in a VG10 class steel that just doesn't exist right now. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I do know that feeling when you feel like you fucking know somebody, but you've never met them before in your entire life. Yeah, you just feel like a connection with them. I know what you're saying, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, my friend. Yeah. LC200N versus O2. That's fucking oxygen, dude. What are you trying to do? What up, dog? Oh. So LC200N is essentially everything you could ever want in a VG10 class steel, but it's rust proof. It deburrs like a fucking champion, buddy, and it takes a just nasty crisp edge. So the problem with LC200N is you can't go harder than 60. So this is 60 HRC. This is LC200N. It can't go higher. So you're fucking stuck. Why is that hardness so important? The hardness is important because if you want something to hold a shape like this, it needs to be fucking hard if you need something super thin. Otherwise, what happens when you cut stuff, it kind of rolls over. So LC200N, while it really won't chip that much, it'll kind of be prone to rolling over at the geometries I put these fucking knives at. Because, god damn it, I spend all of my time trying to make the best geometries for you guys and try to get them as thin as possible. Okay, we're talking like between 5 to 10 thou on most of my knives. Those aren't for everybody. You guys will still fucking chip them and stuff like that if you use them like idiots. But for the people that use them properly, you will enjoy them because you can't get that anywhere. Yeah. Have I ever worked on a top secret mission due to my expertise? They don't use fucking knives in the military, dude. Use fucking guns. Duh. There was this one guy who thought that everybody in the military was a fucking MMA fighter. I remember, and it was just like, what are you talking about? They barely have enough time to go to the range and shoot and do all the cool guy stuff that they do, let alone like practice MMA. That's its own discipline. So no, I'm not in the fucking military or any of that shit, dude. How much would I say it's worth to other steels? Take it sleazy, bro. I don't know, man. Here's what I'll say. Take your $160, put it towards my fucking knife, okay? Yeah, that's not my last name, so. Yeah, fuck that Mule Team knife, man. I got some K390 in a mini trapper. Why don't you buy one of those for me, man? Buy one of those for me. Yeah. You know, I feel like a lot of those old World War II vets, they've kind of decided to return some of those katanas because they just felt like, well, they would take. There was this video, I remember he took the handle off the katana and it had the family's name, and he decided to send it back. Yeah. Yeah, Three Basket Living. Welcome aboard this channel. We pull no punches here. We tell you the facts from my experience and opinion. You know, I don't hold back anything. People are free to openly disagree here, so it's fine. Yeah, welcome aboard. Thank you. Instagram is the best place to reach me. If you want to even just see what goes on in my world, if you want to see what I'm up to or what I'm working on, you need to go to @BBHandmade at Instagram and follow my channel on the Instagram. The videos I put on here, I'll put up a video here every once in a while, but yeah, that's where you go if you want to see what I'm up to. Fuck no, I wasn't in no fucking family reunion. What, all brown people look the same? Yeah, fuck you. Have I ever looked into having a design go to production? I don't know, man. You know, that's a really tough question to answer because when you send something to production, they can only do so many things for you. And here's the problem. Production is they're stuck. All these knives are stuck at about 20 thousandths behind the edge. And at the same time, they have to keep the steel a little bit softer, you know? So, and they can't necessarily go as hard. Spyderco is the exception. Spyderco is the one company I would love to work with because they seem like they definitely are able to go steels much harder and put 15-degree per side angles and shit on there. My problem is that when you get somebody this passionate about knife performance, if it's watered down even by that much, it breaks my heart. And so the problem for me is that this is a lifelong passion for me. When I'm old and gray hair and shitty and all that stuff, I'm still going to love knives and I'm still going to want to push the limits of them. And knowing that this stuff is capped because it has to meet some sort of production quota and this custom knife world stuff is not, then, man, I don't know how I feel about that because it's going to have my name on it. And people will then pick up this knife and think it's going to perform the same as this. And it's not. And so I don't know how I feel about a production collaboration because I know that they're so limited on what they can and can't do. And for me, I give a fuck less about if my knives are available to everybody. I just care that somebody can experience the things that I love. And so the reason why I got into knife making is because I couldn't get what I wanted to make. It was impossible. And I'd asked many makers, hey, could you guys make steels or make knives like these at really thin geometries? they said, no, that's impossible. And I knew that's not impossible. Why are they saying that? You know, and it's just hard to do, and it's hard to make money at. So that's what it comes down to. It's just hard to make money at doing stuff like this. But I figured, you know what? I'll just sell it for the price that it cost me, and and my time to make it. And those that value that will get a really fucking cool knife. Those that don't, and those that say, hey, that costs too much money, or this and that, my knives aren't for you. You can go buy something cheaper like this, and it'll work just fine. So that's my kind of mindset on that. I'm trying to make stuff you can't get. The stuff you can't get. So that's what I'm trying to do. Because I feel, as somebody that sharpens and loves knives more than anything in the whole world, with the cutting performance and stuff, I have no option in this life but to focus on that kind of stuff. So that's my mission, and that's what drives me. So production knife collaboration, it just depends on what the production knife company is capable of doing, because I've run into, they're so limited on what they can do because they have to make a profit margin with making. Here's the thing. You have to realize, a production company, you're making like fucking 10,000 knives. I'm making a knife like one by one. It takes me like forever just to make one knife. These guys are making like 10,000 knives. So how dare I shit on a company that's making way more volume than I can ever hope to dream of? But at the same time, how could they ever hope to match, the professionalism and knowledge and skill of somebody that's able to focus on just making one knife at a time? So you have this kind of imbalance where what's the most important to the end consumer? Is it the fact they can get something pretty good for a decent price? Or is it the fact they can get something that's the fucking best, that somebody had put all of their hands and time and money and into to try to make the physically best, that Sean can make, that can sharpen and knows all this stuff, that can put into this one blade? Or would you rather have something that like 20 or 40 different people had put their hands on and, kind of had to water it down a little bit to make a quota and a profit margin, So it just all depends, man. I don't know. Yeah, if you want all the hand, that's fine, man. Yeah, these are available on the shelf right now. You can get these. I like it. I bought one. I thought it was cool. This right here, I don't know. It takes forever, dude. I don't know. I don't know, man. Do whatever you want. I don't care. Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't hurt me much, Here's the honest thing about me, man. If I just had 100 people that liked my knives, I wouldn't need to sell them to anybody else. All I would need is about 100 people that like my knives. And if 100 people bought like, I don't know, 3 or 4 knives, I'd be happy. That's all I need, man. Yeah. These companies are selling to like thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people. I'm only concerned with making my customers 100, maybe even 1,000, if I could be so bold, people happy. That's it. And then those people will be happy. They'll appreciate my time that I put into each knife. The random person walking down the street that doesn't give a fuck about knives, I don't care to make knives for that person. They wouldn't even appreciate it even if I sold it at the price of this. They don't understand my time, my pain that goes into making something beautiful like that. So, yeah, I'm only concerned with selling to the top, 10% of people. So the people that want the best. Otherwise, it's just not. Yeah. Yeah, the one at the Portland Knife House is Nitro V at 60 HRC. That was one of the first heat treats I did with that steel. Yeah. But I made that knife really fucking thin. In fact, I hope the person that buys that knife at the Portland Knife House knows what they're doing, because it's just kind of sitting there. Any random person can pick it up and buy it, which always kind of worries me a little bit, because I made that knife incredibly thin. And Nitro V, it takes a really sticky edge at 60 HRC. It just, it's not as strong as the Nitro V I'm working with now, where I'm putting that stuff at 64 HRC. The HRC stuff is really interesting because I've noticed that I've gotten different Rockwell hardness numbers from sending to different heat treaters, or just having different independent Rockwell hardness testing done. And I've done Rockwell hardness testing myself, and I've learned how to do it. And I found that depends on your surface finish. So you see this Rex 121. The reason why I'm so stressed out about this Rex 121 is look at that surface finish. That's like a 60 or 36 grit type finish, and it's vertical striations like this. If you put a 120-degree diamond indenter on here for Rockwell hardness testing, it's probably not going to give you a very accurate reading. I feel like you need at least a 60 grit smooth finish or something like that to get a really accurate reading on here. Otherwise, it hits the ridges on here, and it's not as accurate. So it fucking, there's so much shit that goes into these knives that I make. You guys have no idea the things that I have to stress about to get the highest quality product to you guys. So it's yeah, I'm kind of like really just feel so much angst about that. Meanwhile, this CPM 15V, I could send this out to heat treat right now. I mean, that, look at that, it's a beautiful finish. It's ready for heat treat. That's good to go. And this came like this from Crucible. This also came from Crucible, but this was so fucking gnarly for them to surface grind that they couldn't do it. Yeah. How'd you buy a knife from me? You know, that kind of stresses me out a little bit because it's I have to make them. You know, and I'm making them right now. And there's probably a pile of knives I have that I just felt like weren't good enough to sell to you guys. And so the ones that I'm selling, I sell them on the Instagram. I'll mention them here on YouTube, and I'll tell you guys, hey, this is where you buy this is the features of this knife. This is what I went through to make it. This is what this knife will do for you. This is who this knife is for. This is who this knife is not for. This is the geometry. This is the edge. And then I'll put the price and all that stuff on Instagram. So basically, this is where we talk about all the features and all the kind of, what's going on with the knife. Instagram is just basically where I sell the knife. So if you just don't want any bullshit, just go to the Instagram. It's up there. It's got the price listed. The prices are always adjusted depending on how, difficult it was to make. And that's where you go it, man. You go to the Instagram if you just want to buy it. So if you guys don't follow me on the Instagram, if you guys aren't in the social media, like, I don't know, man. That's where I'm going to sell them. So, yeah, you're going to have to get an Instagram if you really want a knife from me, because that's just been the easiest way I found to sell the knife is just I put it up, I put the price, it's gone in less than 5 minutes, and I'm happy. The customer's happy. I mean, I could only make so many of these, so yeah, I'm glad those people appreciate it. 15V, yeah, it's exactly 11 more V's than 4V, so that's what 15V is. Yeah. I don't got any problems with zero tolerance, Nate. My problem is you have to understand, Spatico is the only company that pushes the steel and Rockwell hardnesses on knives. And somebody that's as geeked out as me, you have to understand that that's my biggest concern in life. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like 3V, man. I don't like it. I feel like if you're going 3V, you should have gone 4V. But you gotta understand where I'm coming from. I make the fucking knives, so I get a choice when it comes to the geometry and heat treat that the customer gets, and I get to choose the one that performs the best. So if I get to make knives, I want the lowest geometry and I want the hardest steel, and so I want CPM 4V. 3V is too gummy. I don't really like it. If I was to make a big chopping knife for batoning and stuff like that, I would do 3V. I don't really make that many knives like that though, because I feel like there's more skill demands from my expertise for making really thin knives and hard steel. You can find any big dumb fucking clumsy tough knife any day of the week from any other knife maker. You come to me, you come to Sean, you come to Big Brown Bear when you want the thinnest, hardest knife that's made to be sharpened on Japanese water stones or any type of water stones or oil stones or any freehand sharpening. You come to this guy. That's my niche. I feel like the market is flooded right now with knives that are made to be clumsy and fucking tough and it doesn't chip. But I found in my experience with being a knife reviewer and knife user for the past 5 years that all it takes for a knife to be super tough is to have 1, low alloy, 2, thickness. That's it. That's all it took. It wasn't about the heat treat or any of that stuff. Yeah. So I'll let those people do that. You come to me when you want the thinner stuff that's harder, that holds an edge longer, if you know what the fuck you're doing. If you need something that is just as clumsy as your knife use, then you probably want to go somewhere else, unsubscribe from this channel. Not really interested in doing business with you. I'm more interested in people that want the finesse, the high-end hardness stuff. That's harder to do. Yeah, it's harder to do, guys. So it's my opinion. Yeah. Diamond spray, Portland Knife House stuff, man. Well, that's the problem. The heat treat is not, the heat treat has to be done where it's like thousands of knives at a time. Next, you're not even getting any kind of geometry to really express what the heat treat is doing. So for people to bitch about what the heat treat is versus Spyderco or Benchmade, who gives a fuck? It's the same, basically. It's all mass production stuff. So yeah, find something else to argue about. You know, the only way you're going to notice what the heat treat is going on is 1, if you know how to fucking sharpen. 2, if the geometry is basically under 15 thousandths behind the edge. If it's not, who cares, man? If it's an okay heat treat, it's an okay heat treat. So that's my take on that. Yeah. If you want, yeah, if you want to talk about heat treat, you got to go thin. You got to go under 15 thou behind the edge of a 15 degree per side. Then you're going to see what the heat treat is doing. Most of what people are seeing when they talk about toughness or this and that is basically how high the carbide volume is in the steel, and then how it's been sharpened and the geometry. There's nothing to do necessarily with heat treat, because the heat treat, if it's good enough, it's good enough. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Yeah. You know, it takes a lot of fucking work. It costs a lot of money to make a knife really thin, especially if it's really hard steel. So that's the reason why it's difficult to mass produce that. And then you have to combine that with the fact that most of the end users that are doing stuff with their knives, they're not very good at using their knives, and they're not good at sharpening their knives, so they have a lot of problems. Yeah, I've tried King's Compound, like Christy gave some to me. I like it, but I don't know, man. You know, at the end of the day, you guys always want to know, like, oh, what's better than this, or what's that than this. I don't know, man. If it's good enough, it's good enough, dude. Yeah. Yeah, you know, I like where Benchmade was going with that Puko. The one thing I would have liked is to see it at higher hardness and thinner geometry. And I think we might see some cool shit like that from Benchmade in the future. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's fucking stressful to make knives at this level, I feel like. I think it'd be easy if I just made knives that are thicker and dumber. But deep down inside, my passion for this stuff is the reason why I do it. Otherwise, I mean, fuck knife making. Knife making isn't that fun, man. I'll tell you right now. Knife making fucking is boring. Knife making is isolating. It's boring. It's dirty. It costs more money than you can usually make per knife. If anybody wants to get into knife making, I'll tell you right now, it's not that fucking fun. You know, it kind of fucking sucks. Unless you're doing like forging and stuff like that. Forging is fun. It's very dynamic and stuff. But if you want the best steels, you can't forge fucking Maxinet and shit like that. So fuck that shit, you know. So it's a passion, dude. It's a passion. You have to have some sort of code. You have to have some sort of like honor that you live by, and what you're making is more important. Your vision is more important than basically all that other stuff. But at the same time, you still have to charge what your knives are worth, you know. And it's difficult at times. It's very stressful, I will say. Yeah. So. I guess so. I mean, there really is no secrets to knife making, man. It's just about doing it. That's why sometimes I get so annoyed with people that want to ask what the big secret is or what this is. There's no fucking secret. You make it. You know, I don't know what to say. You just fucking do it. You know, and then the problem is you run into people that want to take what you say and use it to sell their shit. And so you're like, what the fuck? I shared this information with all of you, and you're just taking it to sell your fucking shit? Like, what the fuck? Fuck you. Like, that's why knife makers don't like to share their stuff. Yeah, the secret is there is no secret, but then you run into those people that try to market to people that don't know fucking anything. And then that's the problem, is that people that want to market the knowledgeable stuff to people that don't know anything. Yeah. So that's all. I mean, there's no secret. You just fucking do it, man. I don't know. And I don't know. Yeah, so I gotta say, man, fuck everything. I'm gonna get these knives here. I'm gonna heat treat them hard as fuck. I'm gonna get them thin as fuck. Some people, these will chip. For people that know what the fuck they're doing, they won't. For some people, this will be impossible to sharpen. For people that know what's going on, they won't. And I'm making these types of knives at this level. We already talked about some other knives. We're ending this video because of fucking I'm out of beer. All right, cantankerous now. And these knives are for fucking people that want the best. These types of steels. They're not for everybody. I will not sell these to anybody. People that want these types of knives in CTS XHP or CTS Maximet Rex 121. Both of these knives will reach 70 HRC. The 15V will reach about 64, 65 HRC. Yeah. Well, battery dad. It's great talking with you guys. Thank you for joining me with this live feed. I always delete the live feeds after just because the shit we talk about is only relevant to the people that are fucking hanging out with me. So I figured just leaving it up. People will ask me questions that are just fucking out of context from the live feed that I don't even remember fucking 6 months ago or some bullshit. So fuck all that. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my buzz this evening. Take care, enjoy, and I look forward to continuing my work and getting these knives made with painstaking labor and attention to detail and into your folks' hands. So follow my Instagram channel if you want to see what I'm just fucking up to, and I'll try to get some more video content out to you. And thank you for the people that support me on my fucking Patreon, because I appreciate you guys more than you could ever know. Thank you so much.